So thank you so much for granting us this interview. I am Buba Waijane and I will be the one to interview you today. Tell us your name, where you grew up, and how your childhood was like.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jane. My name is ABDOU.K TOURAY, born and brought up in Gunjur. As to my childhood, it was full of challenges of various types. Normally, you know, as a child, you would live with your mother, but in my case, I was more or less living with my dad. And this shaped my thinking, and I think it has also prepared me for a lot. And then my dad's dream was to send me to Ustaz Omar Bunjam for Islamic education. He never wanted me to do any Western education, reasons best known to himself. But his younger brother, on the other hand, wanted me to go to a Western school. So there was a kind of push and pull between the two. And as our traditions would have it, you know, he finally backed down for the younger brother to grant his wish, and he sent me to an English school. But my dad did not also back down. He made sure that when I leave the English school in the morning, in the evenings, I would go for this Dara section. And in that way, by the time I reached grade 4, this was in 1989, I conquered the Quran. Then I was in grade 4. So that's my childhood. And then after passing the then primary school living certificate examination, then I moved to Muslim high school. So in short, this is my childhood.
Thank you. So tell us about your educational background.
Yes, as I said, I attended Gunjur Primary School up to 1992. When I left, I went to the then Muslim Middle School. Because we were the first grade 9 batch in this country. So the schools then were called middle schools, you know, before the names were changed to upper basic. So I went to Muslim Middle School, you know, up to 1992. When I sat to the grade 9 examination, I acquired an aggregate 16, you know, and then later I dropped out from school because I could not have anybody to kind of give me financial aid for my continuous education, so I dropped out. So after dropping out, I spent 6 good years out of the school system. But 6 good years, which I think it was God himself working, because I used that 6 good years to mount extensive research, because the ambition to learn was there. So it's like I was kind of, if you like it, a mad guy, seeing myself not going to school. So I became a kind of scavenger. I read almost anything I happened to, you know, lay my hands on. When my colleagues would get up and go to school, I would also look for something to read. Basically, history was something I read a lot, Islamic history, you know. And then I also kind of reinforce my research when it comes to Islam, and that really helped me a lot. Books like Sahih al-Bukhari from volume 1 to 9, I read them one page after the other. Don't think this is an exaggeration. Sahih al-Bukhari from 1 to 9, I read it one after the other. Riyadus Salihin, volume 1 and 2, I also read them. Sharia, the Islamic law, written by Abdurrahman Dua, I read them too, one page after the other. Halal wa Haram, written by Yusuf al-Qardawi. All these books, I read them within this 6 years period. Then it's like God was working. At the end of the 6 years, close to that, I had a cousin sister who kind of lobbied for me to go for teaching, because he thought I was not doing anything. And I went to that unqualified teaching, and I was posted to Demphai, CRL North. My first year, I was still coming back to education. Don't think it's a digression. I was taken to grade 1, but I was with a headmaster. You know, some people are smart. With my grade 9 certificate, maybe he realized something else. Then he moved me to grade 6. Even other teachers were complaining that I shouldn't go to grade 6 with that grade 9 certificate. But I never had the discussion until when the final results of my students came out. That was the day he told them, I saw something in this boy, this is why. Because you guys are complaining, but I was in the teaching field before any of you. He told them, one thing I know, he's a born teacher. He has not yet gone to the college, but the way he teaches, because my grade 1 was next to his office. Probably he was, you know, overhearing most of what I was doing. So, you know, the next year also, I was spotted to the same school. And then the third year, I had a kind of announcement for entry exams into School of Nursing. This was in 2001. I decided to join with my grade 9 certificate. Little did I know that the Gambia College does not in fact accept grade 9 certificate. So in that exams, we were 137 at Bansang, School of Enrollment and Nursing. I came out first in that exams. I was the only grade 9. But I came out first with that exams with people whom I know even from this village, who are from St. Augustine's with O levels, and some already trained nurses. I'm telling you this not because I want to boast. I want the society to realize something, so that people like me should not be a victim because of not acquiring a mayor paper. Because most of them, those I did the exams with, all of them were from high school, and some of them were already trained nurses in CHN. And the exams was based on English, Maths, and General Science. But if a grade 9 student can come out with first, then one thing we should know is not all knowledges are written or can be expressed through a mayor paper. Let them have, exceptions for special cases. This I want to go because I felt I was a victim, and this has been in me. To me, it was a kind of a system of injustice, which should not be repeated for any other person. So, in that way, I had a grandfather who wanted to kind of fight because he thought, Alhaji Kebasidi, he was connected, he thought what they did to me was wrong. But he had somebody in the Ministry of Health, one Mboj, he was then the PRO of RVH, I could recall. Yes, Mboj, I don't know. Ngom, Astagfirullah, Ngom, PRO. If they look at their records, RVH would know this. He was the guy who told my grandfather, I have checked the records. What your grandson said is true. He got the best result. He beat all these candidates. But the truth is that the Gambia College does not accept grade 9 certificate. But Uncle K, because he calls my grandfather uncle, if you really want to help this boy, please tell him to go back to school. If he go back to school, I think he is more than this program we want to do. So in that way, after 6 years, I went back to Muslim high school. This is why I cannot complete my educational background without telling you this portion, because there is a gap. Otherwise, you will never understand it. So I went back to Muslim middle school, Muslim high school. Then Suleiman Bunjai was the principal. And this was also in May, when first term and third term was completed. So Mr. Njai said, you want to go back to school after 6 years too? I said, yes. So he said, but the year has already ended. If now we're going to take you on a condition, if you pass the exams, which I doubt you cannot, because people have gone beyond, far too for you to cover. So the agreement was we will enroll in grade 9, in grade 10 for this third term, and then you try. If you are able to pass it, then we will promote you. Otherwise, you will repeat. Then we went. We had the exams, and that was the final year exams. I came out second in my class. He thought it was a miracle too, because I did not have first time or second time with them. But then the readings I did before really helped me, and still the full potentials could not be realized because it was like a quick reading. But since then, up to the day I graduated from Muslim high school, all my records, I have the transcript here. That was the only second. That was the only time somebody has ever headed me in any examination in that class. And even in the final exams, in that year, I came out, I got the best result in Muslim high school. This was in 2003. So that's my education. From there, I went to the Gambia College and did my HEC-TC. And then after the HEC-TC, I also did a diploma in banking and finance. While I was working with Trust Bank, I decided also to go in for law. Then there was a matured program for law. I did a law program for 2 years. This current IG was my classmate in that law program. Abdullah Sanyang, Nani Juara, current managing director of NAWEC, was my classmate in that Almam Jesma. I can name a lot of names. Sidin Jai, current deputy speaker, was my classmate in that law program. We know each other very well. So basically this is my background, inshallah.
When do you first realize that you wanted to be a writer?
I would tell you the truth. I think that I would ever become a writer was never part of my dreams. But then, I think abruptly, I started writing. In my grade 8, there was an association in Muslim high school called the Writers Club. I joined that association. just like that. And then I thought of something that was posing a problem. I was seeing a lot of my colleagues then, when we come to school, before entering classes, they will indulge into gambling at KG5, Banjul, if you know KG5. That got a lot of people into mess. So I wrote on that, just like that. But it was not inspirational, I would say. It was just abruptly, it just came to my mind and I wrote about that. And then Kamabaji was a minister. And this became so much interesting to even the school administration. They decided to include it into the school magazine. And then during our speaker and prize giving ceremonies, Kamabaji was there. And then I think he happened to go through this, and he looked at that article, and under it is right, ABDOU.K to the grade 8. So he decided to kind of search for me, and I was brought before him. I could tell you this today. When he asked me, where are you from? I said, Gunjur. His immediate answer was, no surprise. His immediate remark was, no surprise. Yes. So that was the first ever article I could recall. Okay, then after, in our grade 9, you could recall that there was an incident between the paramilitary and some students of Muslim high school around 1996, which even resulted for the IG Jibril Juf then to be sacked by the former President Jammeh and the then Principal Abdullah Njai. We were part of that group. We had this school inter-house picnic at the golf course, and then we were kind of chased by the paramilitary. Then it wasn't paramilitary, in fact it was the soldiers. That incident also too, the next day, it just came to my mind. I decided to write about it. In fact, I gave it a good name and call it The Golf Course. That's why I've been the first book I should print, and I made it into 7 chapters. And I still have it here. I said I would print it, and I don't in fact want to edit it. I want to write it, in the pure grade 8 level English as I was at that time. And I will indicate it that this is written at a time when I was at grade 8. That should have been my first book. Because the next day, when I woke up, it just came to my mind, and I called it The Golf Course. So how we went to the place, how we were chased, virtually I made it to a 7. This was at grade 8 level. So I would not say that I realized a patent in myself. All along my dream was to become a diplomat. Yes. So that's it.
So where do you get your ideas of writing from?
That again, I won't say I got any idea from anybody. But one thing I know, I was influenced by one teacher who also at that grade 6 level was my very good friend, one Mr. Demba Job. Yes, one Mr. Demba Job. He influenced me. He would give me books and ask me to read them. So I would say that I was introduced to the art of writing or the skills of writing at a tender age, because as you read the work of other people, this is kind of introducing you to lexis and structures, and even you can connect ideas. Basically this is how I think I acquired.
Writing about the history of MATORA, as a great man in the history of Gunjur, where do you draw your inspiration?
That again, I was just somebody inquisitive. As I said, I like knowledge. So I used to sit with elders and ask them questions. I could recall my father's elder brother, the late Imam Ratib of Gunjur. At tender age, I was very close to him, and he told me a lot about the family history, how their ancestor MATORA, migrated from Mali, and that he was a saint, what we call a waliyu, that he has been in Tilibo in Mali, and God was showing him dream for him to migrate to this part of the world. So he is very inspirational. To me, that man is very inspirational. And then people like Malik and a whole lot of other people. But for me, I was only taking history. For me to write this book, I would say that inspiration came from Dr. Sabar Jane. One day, as I was chatting with, as I said, I love people of knowledge, so I do visit him frequently. One day, our chat happens to go through this Gunjur history thing. He realized that I know a lot about Gunjur. His first man, Mr. TOURAY, you should put this in the form of a book. You should put this in the form of a book. That's how he talks. Yes, so since then it has been in me. But I never thought I would do it now because my busy schedules. So I think Sabari has been the first inspiration. But to make it finally culminate into a reality, definitely I would thank one Yankuba Dabo. just some few months ago, I was at a medical center. In fact, I just went to look for a treatment when this man called. He said, Mr. Toure, he's in America. Mr. Toure, I heard your conversation somewhere. Please make sure you put this in the form of a book. You cannot allow to die and with such a deep knowledge about our society as others did. So he said, do it and I'll support you in any way you want it. Yes, so tell me how much it's going to cost. I said, well, nothing is done like that. Give me a chance first to organize myself. And I said, Yankuba, a lot of people have been asking me to write books about this MATORA history thing, but I don't know. From today, I'm giving you my word. I never give my word to anybody, because they know me something about me too. Once I say something, I want to do it. I said, I'm giving you my word. Come what may. This year, I'll write a book about MATORA. So I started writing. Basically, this whole writing did not take me 3 months. And with all my busy schedules, sometimes a day I will only give 30 minutes to write something, just 30 minutes. You don't need to have a long time. It's about organization. He knows a bit about my program, but just some days I will only have 30 minutes. I write on in fact, I will time myself. If the 30 minutes is up, I will stop it and go for something else. Or some days I will be lucky that I'll have close to an hour. So the whole thing did not take me 2 months, with that busy schedule. So I would say the inspiration actually was from these people I mentioned. Pakausu was very inspirational in terms of giving information, but in terms of writing, the first party to encourage me to do that was Dr. Sabare. And then Yankuba kind of pressured me to do it, and then he sponsored it. I spent $40,000 for the production. That book did not come from me. He made that promise, and he stood by it up to today. He sent me the money, and I went and made the publication. So that's how it came.
So what are some of the challenges that you are facing during the write-up of this particular book, and how are you able to actually tackle them?
As I said, my biggest challenge, I think, would be time. Time was really very challenging for me, and then, but virtually I overcome it. That's a challenge that can only be dealt with by self-organization. But the biggest challenge is finance, because without the Yankuba, he gave me the correct. This idea has been in me, because I cannot do it because financially I know it's going to be tough. That much I know. So this is why. So I think finance is the main challenge, and then yes, and publication also in this country, it's not easy in terms of logistics, because I would have loved to give this book to Gambia National Printing Corporation, but I've been there. My experience was, I don't know whether it was a deliberate act, like you see something good and you do not want to kind of give it a chance, because they kind of frustrate me. They told me to go to somebody who was, they said that guy is the director of, I don't know, production or whatever. I went to that guy, he told me, no, you should go back to them, the marketing. They should know the cost of the book. I went back to marketing and said, no, go back to him. He said, I went back to marketing, they said, okay, now, the shape of your book is too much, so can you go and downsize it first and come back? I told them, I knew straight away what was happening. I said, okay, fine, I'll come back. I never went back. Because to me, as a good producer, I'm saying this because we want our country to develop. We want our country, to kind of get itself free from some of the bottlenecks we have, So I went to the university, I had my nephew there who is very much acquainted with this, technology thing. I'm not that much technological, that's my style. So he helped me that very day to downsize it and whatever, one Base Kujete, So we transferred it on a flash drive, and then they connected me to another guy who they told me his publications are very good and he's an expert in it, a single person. And that's how the production came about.
Are you anticipating to write any other book different from this one?
Yes, right now I already have, in fact, given them names, 4 other books in my brain. One is gone about myself, because as I told you, I just gave you a hint of the challenges I face. That book, I want to call it Who Am I? Who Am I is going to be the name, because I like giving short names that makes people inquisitive. So Who Am I is going to be the name, and start through my schedule, my rough schedules until where, my rough challenges until where I am today. The next book also wants to be Gunjur and its vibrant economy. You've seen it. We have Gunjur, do not lose anything. We have everything, but we are not able to organize ourselves. The sand mine, look at it. Almost entirely, the entire sand is being mined from Gunjur right now for the rest of the country. But where does that sand mining? How does it affect the community directly? Instead, it is just destroying our economy, our environment, and of course, giving us pollutions. But there is nothing we can point at as a direct benefit from it. To a lot of things. So I want to write another book and want to call it Gunjur and its vibrant economy. The other issue I want it to be about contemporary issues in Islam. Salat ala Nabi in the mosque, whether it is forbidden or whether some will call it bidah, the charities after death, the 3 days, the 7 days, some will call it bidah. We want to kind of broad those lines, not actually making an opinion on them, because those are, they have been issues of subjectivity right from the beginning. So, but then you can draw a hadith of a prophet and draw a Quranic verse, and sometimes you may not have a direct verse to deal with a problem, but you do what is called compare and contrast. Before you condemn something, you look at the source. So that's what we're going to do, kind of draw and then make readers read, and then they should be free to make their opinion. You can go either way after reading it. That's one of the books I want to write.
So what message do you have for the general public about the importance of writing history?
Very, very important. I will consider your question as the most important as far as I'm concerned. My brother, let me tell you, if history is not properly written, be prepared for a chaotic future. This I can tell you. I have given you, this is a topic of itself that you can write a book about. I will repeat it. If history of a people is not properly written, let those people be prepared for a chaotic future. Because anything you see in this world, there was a way it was started, and it evolved, and they did not evolve themselves. There are people responsible. These are called the denizens, the indigenous. So you have to know them, you have to know who they are, and give them their right positions, so as to stabilize the society. But if the history is not properly written, my brother, nothing is gonna work. Yep, nothing is gonna work. That society has a black future, and nothing but darkness is what is hovering over them, and endless darkness. That much I can tell you. So history is very, very important. Yep. It helps us to understand our past, and from that past you can learn your mistakes and where you got successes, so that you will use that to kind of prepare for the future. This is it, and now we take history as almost nothing. And another philosopher said, right now I cannot remember who was the philosopher, he said, if you make somebody a leader of a people who doesn't know their history, he said he is going to misplace, he said he's going to have a misplaced society. In that you will take those who are the rightful leaders or the rightful owners of certain things, you will make them the downtrodden, and the downtrodden will be uplifted. That's what history does when it is not properly written. So I think it's very, very important for all of us to know our history. And then right now in our African societies, one way to help us do away with tribalism is history. I look at him, I said, Wali. I said he's a king because I read the history about the Walis. I'm not talking out of blues. I look at Konata, I made mention of that because I have a proper reason. Sunjata Keita was never Keita. Sunjata was christened as Magang Konate. Sunjata Keita, go and ask any historians. It was after when he ascended to the throne of his father, acquiring it back to the family, then the Mandinka greats were calling Ketala, the one who succeeded, the one who replaced the father. Because the throne was lost when Sumangur attacked them. So he was one who brought it back. That's how he got the surname. All the surnames in Mandinka, the person did something. The ancestor did something, and that's why he got the surname. If we have time, I can tell you all these surnames: Wali, Toures, Jobates. How did they come about? They all came about because there was a particular incident that the person does, and then the griots will pick up a name, and that's how the surnames became. But Sunjata was not Keta. Or this is why all the Ketas will tell you Sunjata is our grandfather, because he was the first person to be had a surname. That's how it came.
Finally, what advice do you have for the young generation of writers?
Alhamdulillah. Read and read. Read not to pass exams. Read to understand issues. Read not to acquire marks or CGPAs. Read to understand issues. My brother, they may say he has graduated with honorary bachelor's, but at the end of the day, when you sit with some of the so-called degree holders over issues, you can easily see a lot of troubles. Yeah. So you can see that there are some who only try to read to acquire big marks. They are only preparing themselves for offices and positions. That will not help you. If you want to become a good writer, read and read genuinely, and make sure that do not copy, always quoting people. No, quoting Kwame Nkrumah. No, I said, I will tell my friends, Kwame had a brain, like you. Try to, I was in fact, I once tell one of my friends on Facebook, I said, for as far as I'm concerned, I am what I am, and I will continue to be what I am wherever I am. Yes. So be yourself. Don't be copying people. Don't be copying Kwame Nkrumah. Don't be quoting. Sometimes I'm baffled. You listen to somebody speaking, he thinks he's making sense. Quoting Kwame Nkrumah, quoting Thomas Sankara. No, be yourself. Thomas was talking to people at a time different from your time. So try to be contemporary. And that's the essence of knowledge. Try to be contemporary. Of course, you can learn from them, as I said, but then do not kind of get those words and put it into your brain. Wherever you go, Kwame Nkrumah said, Thomas Sankara said. No, this is not learning. So these are, if you want to be a good writer, even you will see it. My language is as simple as even a Grenadier student can read this book and understand it. Bombastic language does not help a writer. No, you think it becomes a big book when you kind of fill it with jargons and you think it's going to impress people. No, somebody is going to start it. He's discouraged, and once that is done, your book is not going to go anywhere. So this is in short what I can tell. There are a lot, but because there is no way you can exhaust everything at one point in time. But this is why I will tell every good writer: if you want to be a good writer, read, be independent in terms of thought, and be contemporary. Be contemporary, because you are writing for people, so be contemporary. Even your English has to be contemporary. Yes, because a long time ago, Shakespeare, with his understanding of literature and English grammar, you will not see a cell phone in Shakespeare's books, because cell phone did not exist. So be contemporary. Yes, be contemporary.